Hi, I'm Chad with Move for Guitar. This lesson is from our series, Music Theory for Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to explain drop 3 chords. First off, if you'd like the diagrams for everything in this series, including the diagrams for this lesson, you can download our free e-guide, Music Theory for Guitar. And this e-guide will be something that you can study and use as a reference for years to come. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to just go download it. But I am working on it as I'm filming this lesson, so if it's available, a link will pop up on the screen that will allow you to download it. If no link appears, you can look in the description and it'll say whether it's available or coming soon. And if it's not available yet, you can sign up for our mailing list and we'll send you a copy as soon as it is available. Also, if you're signed up for our mailing list, you'll receive all updated versions as well. But don't worry, you don't need the e-guide to follow along with this lesson because all of the charts will be on the screen. And also be sure to subscribe because we add at least one new lesson every day. This is part 3.5 from our series, Music Theory for Guitar. If you'd like to go back and start at the beginning, you can click the link on the screen. So in the last lesson I showed you drop 2 chords. In this lesson I'm going to show you drop 3 chords, which are another really common and useful way to play 7th chords. And if you watched the last lesson, I'm sure you can figure out how drop 3 chords are constructed, but I'm going to go over it with you anyway just to make sure you're really clear on it. So to build a drop 3 chord, we're going to start with a major 7th chord in closed position, and we're starting in root position just like we did when we built the drop 2 chords. But this will work, this system will work no matter what type of chord you're playing. So any of the other 7th chords, this same system is going to work. So with the drop 2 chord, we move the second to highest note down an octave, which was this note. Drop 3 chords, I'm sure you can figure out, we're going to move the third to highest note down an octave, or the third from the top. So this is your top note, this is the next note, which is your second, and this is your third. So no matter what close position voicing you're using, it would still be that same order, where this is your highest note, so that's your first, this is your second note, and this next one is your third. So we're going to take the third from the top note and move it down an octave. And that would give you this shape. And technically this is a drop 3 chord, but it's not the most common way to play this. The most common way to play it is to take this note now and move it down to its unison note. So it's not down in pitch, just down towards the floor to its unison note on the adjacent string, right to there, and that would give you this shape. So this is a common way to play a drop 3 major 7th chord in first position. When you turned a closed position 7th chord into a drop 2 chord, you were moving the 5th down an octave, so that puts you in second inversion. When you do the same thing and turn it into a drop 3 chord, you end up in first inversion because you're moving the 3 down an octave. And like I mentioned in the last lesson, you could take the rest of the closed position inversions and apply the same process, and that would give you the different inversions for drop 3 chords. But looking at it that way is not that important. It's most important just to be able to memorize these and get them under your fingers and start using them. I just wanted to explain why they're called drop 3 chords and how you build them out of closed position 7th chords, just like I showed you in the last lesson to build drop 2 chords. And of course this will work for any 7th chords. I'm showing you this as major 7th, but this would work for any of the 7th chords that I showed you. It's just the exact same process. So that's how you get a drop 3 chord out of a closed position 7th chord. Now I'm just going to show you drop 3 chords, major 7th drop 3 chords on the 6th string, starting on the 6th string, so that you can memorize them. And one thing you may notice with the drop 3 chord, you end up with a skipped string. With the voicings I showed you for the drop 2 chords, you didn't end up with a skipped string. It was just on the 6th, the 5th, the 4th, and the 3rd string. With the drop 3 chords I'm showing you, when you start on the 6th string, you'll start on the 6th string, then you'll skip the 5th, and then it's on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. So this is a drop 3 major 7th in root position starting on the 6th string. This is an extremely common voicing, and if you play 7th chords, one that you'll use all the time. So I'd recommend starting with this, and then you can go through and learn the inversions. And you find the inversions the exact same way we found inversions for every other lesson. You just move each note up, each interval up to its next closest interval. And root always goes to 3, 7 always goes to root, 3 always goes to 5, and 5 always goes to 7. So if you move those notes up, they would end up here, and that would give you a drop 3 7th chord in first inversion, because now your third is on the bottom. Then you do it again, exact same process. You would get a drop 3 major 7th chord in second inversion because your fifth's on the bottom. Do it again, you would get a drop 3 major 7th chord in third inversion because your 7th's on the bottom. So I'm not going to spend any more time showing you how to find the inversions. I think at this point you know how to do that. Plus they're all in the E guide, so it's not necessarily go over these in this lesson. I just wanted to make sure that you're totally clear on how you do it. It's the exact same process as finding all the other inversions. You just always move the intervals up to the next closest interval. And again, it works for all the other chord types. It works for dominant 7th, minor 7th, minor 7th flat 5, and diminished 7th. The exact same process. So I just recommend starting in root position for each of those chord types on each of the string sets and just practice going through all the inversions up and down the fretboard and memorizing them, and start using them right away because they are very common and they're very useful, and you're going to get a lot of mileage out of them if you just memorize them, get them under your fingers. And the formula for drop 3 chords, as you could have seen as we're going through them, in root position it's always root 7 3 5. That's the order of your intervals. In first inversion, it's always 3, root, 5, 7. Second inversion is always 5, 3, 7, root. Third inversion is always 7, 5, root, 3. And that applies for all the chord types. So if it was a minor 7th, it would be root, flat 7, flat 3, 5, and so on. It's just the roots, 3s, 5s, and 7s are in this order no matter the chord type, as far as major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, flat 5, or diminished 7th. And I didn't point this out in the last lesson, but you'll notice that root always goes to 3, 3 always goes to 5, 5 always goes to 7. So those are drop 3 chords, and they're extremely useful. I really recommend practicing these, memorizing these. You're going to get a lot of mileage out of them, especially if you get into any type of jazz or R&B or anything. These are really common chords that sound really good at the same time. And again, all these are in the e-guide, so download that. You use that as a reference. You'll be able to look it up anytime you need to. And I also have lessons that show how to play all these chords, so you can check those out as well. And go ahead and move on to the next lesson, where we're going to talk about diminished 7th inversions, because just like augmented inversions, they're more unique since they're symmetrical chords, and I want to dedicate a lesson to those. So go ahead and move on and watch that lesson, and be sure to subscribe because we have at least one new lesson every day.